First contact. The vast expanse of space had long been a realm of wonder and mystery for galactic concordat. For millennia, the alliance of peaceful alien races had explored the cosmos, encountering new civilizations and expanding their understanding of the universe. But nothing could have prepared them for their first encounter with humans. Admiral Zixna of the Concordat's exploratory fleet stood on the bridge of the flagship Celestial Harmony, her iridescent scales shimmering under the soft blue lights. Her large, multifaceted eyes scanned the holographic displays surrounding her command post, taking in the data from the fleet's long-range sensors. "Admiral," called out her second-in-command, a willowy being named Elo, "we're picking up unusual energy signatures from the third planet of this unremarkable yellow star." Zixna's antennae twitched with curiosity. "Unusual how, Elo?" The readings suggest a civilization in its early stages of interplanetary travel, but there's something different about their energy output. It's more efficient than anything we've seen at this stage of development. The Admiral's interest was piqued. In their centuries of exploration, the Concordat had established a clear pattern of technological progression among spacefaring races. Deviations were rare and often heralded exciting discoveries. "Prepare a first contact team," Zixna ordered. "We'll approach cautiously. Remember our protocols. Observe, analyze, and interact only if absolutely necessary." As the Celestial Harmony and its escort ships entered the solar system, the crew marveled at the blue-green world that came into view. Elo's voice cut through the awed silence. "Admiral, we're being hailed in our own language." Zixna's scales rippled in surprise. "How is that possible? We haven't even made our presence known yet." "Unknown, Admiral, but the transmission is clear and appears to be coming from a small station orbiting the fourth planet." "Put it through," Zixna commanded, straightening her posture. A holographic screen flickered to life, revealing a bipedal creature with pinkish skin and a tuft of dark fur atop its head. The being smiled, exposing flat, white teeth. "Greetings, visitors," the creature said in perfect Concordat standard. "I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth Space Command. Welcome to our solar system." Zixna took a moment to compose herself before responding. "I am Admiral Zixna of the Galactic Concordat. We come in peace and with curiosity. But I must ask, how did you know we were here, and how do you speak our language?" Elena's smile widened. "We've been monitoring deep space for centuries, Admiral. As for the language, well, let's just say we have very good linguists and some impressive AI. We've been studying your transmissions for quite some time." The implications of this statement sent a ripple of unease through the Concordat crew. Their communications were supposed to be undetectable to less advanced races. "We would be honored to host you on our Mars base," Elena continued. "Or, if you prefer, we can send a delegation to your ship. We're quite eager to establish formal relations with the Galactic Concordat." Zixna exchanged glances with Elo. This was unprecedented. Most races at this stage of development would be in awe of their arrival, not calmly inviting them over as if they were expected guests. "We appreciate your offer, Captain Rodriguez," Zixna replied cautiously. "We would be pleased to send a small delegation to your Mars base. Perhaps you could tell us more about your civilization." Elena nodded. "Of course. We'll transmit coordinates for a suitable landing zone. And Admiral, we look forward to learning about you as well." As the transmission ended, Zixna turned to her crew. "Prepare the contact team. Full bioscans, universal translators as a backup, and standard defensive measures. Something tells me this isn't going to be a typical first contact scenario." Hours later, Zixna led a small team onto the surface of Mars. The red planet's landscape was dotted with gleaming domes and interconnected structures, a testament to human engineering in harsh environments. They were greeted by Elena and a diverse group of humans in the airlock of the main facility. As the decontamination process completed, Elena stepped forward, extending her hand. "Welcome to Mars, Admiral Zixna. We're honored to be the first to greet you in person. Zixna hesitated for a moment before mimicking the gesture, her scaled hand meeting Elena's smooth one. The honor is ours, Captain. Your achievements are impressive. Elena led them through the base, explaining various aspects of human technology and society. The Concordat team was astounded by the rapid progress humans had made in just a few centuries of industrial development. But surely, Elo interjected at one point, your world must have faced significant challenges with such quick advancement. The energy requirements alone. Elena's expression grew serious. You're right. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. Climate change, resource depletion, war, we came close to the brink. But we learned, adapted, and ultimately united as a species to overcome those challenges. Zixna's antennae quivered with interest. United? You mean your entire species operates under one government? Elena chuckled. Not exactly. We still have our differences and separate nations. But when it comes to space exploration and defending our species, we stand as one. The tour concluded in a large conference room overlooking the Martian landscape. As they settled in for more formal discussions, Zixna couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Everything about this encounter defied her expectations. Captain Rodriguez, she began, I must admit, we're both impressed and somewhat concerned by your level of advancement. In our experience, species at your stage of development are usually, well, less prepared for interstellar contact. Elena leaned forward, her expression earnest. Admiral, humanity has always been driven by curiosity and a desire to explore, but we're also pragmatic. We knew we weren't alone in the universe, and we wanted to be ready when we finally met our galactic neighbors. Elor spoke up, his voice tinged with worry. Ready in what sense? Your defensive capabilities seem quite advanced for a young spacefaring race. A flicker of something, pride, determination, passed across Elena's face. We believe in peace, Admiral, First Officer, but Earth's history has taught us to always be prepared. We hope for friendship but stand ready to defend ourselves if necessary. Zixna felt a chill run down her spine. The humans' readiness, their rapid advancement, their unity in the face of potential threats, it all painted a picture of a species that could be a powerful ally or a formidable enemy. Tell me, Zixna said carefully, what are your intentions now that we've made contact? Surely you don't plan to immediately venture out into the wider galaxy. Elena smiled, but there was a steely glint in her eyes. Why not? We've been confined to our solar system for too long. We're eager to join the galactic community, to learn, to trade, to establish new colonies. The universe is vast, and humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. The implications of Elena's words hung heavy in the air. The Concordat had encountered hundreds of new species over the millennia, but never one that seemed so prepared, so eager, so potentially dangerous. As the meeting continued, Zixna found her mind racing. The Galactic Concordat prided itself on its peaceful expansion, its policy of non-interference with developing worlds. But the humans had upended that paradigm entirely. They weren't waiting to be discovered. They had been watching, learning, and preparing. Hours later, as the Concordat delegation prepared to return to their ship, Elena approached Zixna privately. Admiral, she said, her voice low, I sense your unease. I want you to know that while we're eager to join the galactic community, we also understand the need for caution. We're willing to proceed at a pace that's comfortable for the Concordat. Zixna studied the human's face, trying to discern any hidden motives. I appreciate that, Captain, but I must ask, why? Why put so much effort into preparing for this moment? Elena's expression turned solemn. Because, Admiral, we've learned from our own history that it's better to be over-prepared than caught off guard. The universe is vast and likely filled with wonders, but also potential dangers. We refuse to be helpless in the face of whatever's out there. As Zixna boarded the shuttle back to the Celestial Harmony, she couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change the course of galactic history. Humans, with their drive, their unity, and their strange mix of hope and wariness were unlike anything the Concordat had ever encountered. Back on the bridge of her ship, Zixna gazed at the blue-green world of Earth, teeming with its billions of inhabitants. A species that had clawed its way up from a primitive state to the cusp of galactic civilization in a mere few thousand years. A species that, even in peace, seemed to carry the potential for tremendous change or tremendous destruction. "Your orders, Admiral?" Helo asked, breaking her reverie. Zixna took a deep breath. "Send a priority message to the Concordat Council. Tell them we've made first contact with a species called humans, and that nothing in our protocols has prepared us for what we found." As the message was sent, Zixna couldn't help but wonder, had they just encountered the Concordat's greatest allies or its greatest threat? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same again. The threat emerges. 5 years had passed since humanity's first contact with the galactic Concordat. The initial wariness had given way to a cautious alliance, with human diplomats and scientists gradually integrating into the wider galactic community. Earth had become a hub of cultural exchange, its cities now hosting ambassadors from dozens of alien races. But beneath the veneer of peaceful cooperation, tensions simmered. Many within the Concordat remained uneasy about humanity's rapid advancement and their seemingly innate preparedness for conflict. On the Concordat's capital world of Harmonium, Admiral Zixna stood before the High Council, her scales a dull grey with stress. The chamber was filled with representatives from every member species, their murmurs creating a low hum of anxiety. "Esteemed Council," Zixna began, her voice echoing in the vast hall, "I bring grave news. Our outermost colonies in the Veil Nebula have gone dark. Initial reports suggest an attack by an unknown force." The chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. Arconian Councillor Thrix, his gelatinous form pulsing with agitation, spoke up. "An attack? By whom? We have no enemies." Zixna's antennae drooped. "That's what we've always believed, Councillor. But the evidence is clear. Something is out there, and it's hostile." She activated a holographic display showing grainy footage from the last transmission received from the Veil colonies. Strange, angular ships of an unfamiliar design swarmed around a Concordat outpost. Beams of sickly green energy lashed out, tearing through the station's defenses like they were nothing. "We've designated this unknown species as the Void Collective," Zixna continued. "Their technology is unlike anything we've encountered. Our standard defenses are ineffective." The council chamber fell into a stunned silence. For millennia, the Concordat had known only peace. Their military was little more than a token force focused on exploration and peacekeeping. They were utterly unprepared for a true war. Malar, the avian representative from Ethoria, ruffled her feathers nervously. "What are our options, Admiral? Surely we can negotiate." Zixna shook her head. "We've tried, Councillor. All attempts at communication have been met with silence, and more attacks. The Void Collective seems intent on expansion through conquest." As the council debated frantically, each suggestion more desperate than the last, a quiet voice cut through the chaos. It was Elor, now serving as the Concordat's liaison to Earth. "There might be another option," he said, his willowy form straightening as all eyes turned to him. "The humans." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Arconian Councillor Thrix's form rippled with skepticism. The humans, they're barely more than newcomers to the galactic stage. How could they possibly help against a threat of this magnitude? Elor activated his own holographic display, showing footage from recent joint exercises between Concordat and human forces. The assembled councillors watched in awe as human ships executed complex maneuvers, their weapons easily overwhelming simulated targets that had been modeled on Concordat defenses. "As you can see," Elor explained, "human military capabilities far exceed our own. They've spent centuries preparing for conflicts we never imagined. And their strategic thinking, it's unlike anything in the Concordat." Zixna stepped forward, her scales shifting to a determined blue. Elor is right. I've seen firsthand what humans are capable of. They might be our only hope against the Void Collective. The council chamber erupted into heated debate. Many were hesitant to place their trust in such a young, seemingly volatile species. Others argued that they had no choice. The Concordat simply wasn't equipped to handle this threat alone. Finally, after hours of discussion, a consensus was reached. The Galactic Concordat would formally request Earth's assistance in combating the Void Collective threat. On Earth, in the gleaming headquarters of the United Earth Space Command, General Marcus Chen stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, his weathered face illuminated by the swerving star maps. He turned as Captain Elena Rodriguez entered the room, her expression grim. "You've seen the reports?" Chen asked, though he already knew the answer. Elena nodded. "The Void Collective. Sounds like something out of our old sci-fi novels, doesn't it? Except this is all too real." Chen sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "We always knew this day might come. That's why we pushed so hard, advanced so quickly. But I never thought that it would happen so soon." Elena finished for him. "None of us did, but we're ready, sir. This is what we've been preparing for." Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. The holographic display shifted, showing an incoming transmission from the Concordat capital. Admiral Zixna's veiled face appeared, her expression a mix of worry and hope. "General Chen, Captain Rodriguez," she began, her voice tight with strain. "I speak now on behalf of the entire Galactic Concordat. We need your help." Chen and Elena exchanged a look. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "We're listening, Admiral," Chen replied, his voice steady. "Tell us what you need." Over the next hour, Zixna laid out the dire situation. The Void Collective's advance was relentless, their technology seemingly insurmountable. The Concordat's forces were being pushed back on every front. As the briefing concluded, Chen's expression was resolute. "Admiral, you'll have Earth's full support. We'll begin mobilizing our fleets immediately." Zixna's relief was palpable. "Thank you, General. But are you sure your people will support this? This isn't your war." Elena stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "With all due respect, Admiral, it became our war the moment the Void Collective threatened our allies. Humanity stands with the Concordat." As the transmission ended, Chen turned to Elena. "Well, Captain, it looks like all our preparation is about to be put to the test. Inform all commands. We're going to war." In the days that followed, Earth became a hive of activity. Shipyards that had been quietly producing advanced warships for decades now worked around the clock. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers, driven by a mix of altruism and the age-old human drive to explore and conquer. On the Lunar Command base, Elena oversaw the preparation of Earth's first response fleet. As she walked through the bustling hangar, she marveled at the array of ships being ready for departure. From nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, each vessel represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. A young ensign approached her, anxiety clear on his face. "Captain, is it true? Are we really going to war against aliens?" Elena placed a reassuring hand on the ensign's shoulder. "We are, ensign. But remember, we're also fighting alongside aliens. The Concordat is counting on us." As she continued her inspection, Elena's mind raced with the implications of what was to come. Humanity had long debated its place in the cosmos. Were they alone? Were they ready for what they might find among the stars? Now, those questions had been answered in the most dramatic way possible. In his office in Geneva, General Chen was engaged in a tense video conference with world leaders. The decision to go to war wasn't one that could be made lightly, even with the existing treaties between Earth and the Concordat. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen said, his voice firm, "I understand your concerns, but we've spent generations preparing for this very scenario. If we don't stand with the Concordat now, we risk facing the Void Collective alone in the future." The president of the African Union leaned forward, her expression grave. And you're certain our technology is up to the task, General? The reports from the Concordat are troubling. Chen nodded. Our simulations suggest we have a fighting chance. More importantly, our strategic and tactical doctrines are completely foreign to both the Concordat and the Void Collective. That element of surprise could be crucial. After hours of debate, a consensus was reached. Humanity would go to war. As the first wave of Earth's fleet prepared to depart for Concordat space, a somber mood fell over the planet. In homes and public spaces, people gathered around screens to watch the historic moment. On the bridge of the UES Defiant, the flagship of Earth's expeditionary force, Elena stood beside Admiral Zixner, who had come to personally escort the human fleet to the front lines. "I must admit," Captain Zixner said, her voice low, "when I first encountered your species, I never imagined this scenario. Are your people truly ready for what's to come?" Elena's gaze was fixed on the view screen, where the swirling blue of the first jump gate was forming. "Admiral, humanity has been imagining this moment for centuries. In our fiction, in our planning, in our deepest fears, and our grandest aspirations. We're as ready as we'll ever be." As the fleet began to move towards the jump gate, Elena felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They were about to make the leap from their solar system to a distant battlefront, entering a war unlike anything humanity had ever faced. "All ships, prepare for jump," Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do." The UES Defiant surged forward, leading the Armada into the unknown. As the jump gate enveloped them, Elena exchanged a final glance with Zixner. The Admiral's expression was a mix of hope and uncertainty, a reflection, perhaps, of the entire Concordat's feelings towards their human allies. In that moment, as the familiar stars of Earth's sky gave way to the unknown expanses of deep space, humanity took its first true steps onto the galactic stage. They were no longer observers or cautious newcomers. They were warriors, protectors, and perhaps the last hope for a peaceful galaxy threatened by an implacable foe. The war against the Void Collective had begun, and with it, a new chapter in human history. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what this young, determined species would do next. Unexpected allies. The arrival of the human fleet in Concordat space was a sight that would be remembered for generations. As the massive warships emerged from the jump gates, their sleek designs and formidable weaponry on full display, a mix of awe and trepidation swept through the alien forces. On the bridge of the Concordat flagship, Eternal Harmony, Admiral Zixner watched the human vessels take up formation alongside her own. The contrast was stark. Where Concordat ships were elegant and streamlined, built more for exploration than war, the human vessels bristled with weapon emplacements and heavy armor. "By the cosmic spirits," whispered Elor, his eyes wide. "I knew they were prepared, but this?" Zixner nodded, her scales shimmering with a mix of colors that reflected her conflicting emotions. "Indeed, it seems our new allies have been holding back more than we realized." The comm system crackled to life, and Captain Elena Rodriguez's voice filled the bridge. "Admiral Zixner, the Earth Expeditionary Force is in position and awaiting your orders." "Thank you," Captain Zixner replied, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. "We've detected a Void Collective fleet approaching the Lyra 7 system. It's a key strategic point. If it falls, they'll have a clear path to our core worlds." "Understood," Elena responded, her tone crisp and professional. "Permission to take point on this operation." Zixner hesitated for a moment. The idea of entrusting such a crucial battle to these newcomers went against every instinct she had. But she had also seen the reports of Concordat forces being overwhelmed by the Void Collective. They needed a new approach. "Permission granted, Captain. The Concordat fleet will follow your lead." As the combined fleet made its way to the Lyra 7 system, tension mounted among the Concordat crews. Many had never seen true combat, and the stories of the Void Collective's ruthless efficiency had spread like wildfire. The human ships, however, moved with a confidence that bordered on eagerness. Their comm chatter, which occasionally leaked onto the general channels, was filled with a strange mix of technical jargon and what seemed to be humorous banter. As they approached the system's outer reaches, long-range sensors detected the Void Collective fleet. The alien armada was massive, easily outnumbering the combined human Concordat force 3-1. On the bridge of the UES Defiant, Elena studied the tactical display with a grim smile. Just like we practiced, people. Operation Trojan Horse is a go. To the astonishment of the Concordat observers, the human fleet suddenly split into 3 groups. The largest group, led by the Defiant, charged straight at the center of the Void Collective formation. The other 2 groups peeled off, seemingly retreating. Captain Rodriguez. Zixna's voice was filled with alarm. What are you doing? You're dividing your forces in the face of a superior enemy. Trust us, Admiral, Elena replied, her voice steady. This is all part of the plan. Just keep your fleet back and be ready to move on my signal. As the central group of human ships closed with the Void Collective, they unleashed a barrage of weapons fire unlike anything the Concordat had ever seen. Relativistic kill vehicles, antimatter warheads, and exotic particle beams lashed out, tearing through the front ranks of the enemy fleet. The Void Collective, momentarily stunned by the ferocity of the attack, quickly regrouped. Their return fire was devastating, overwhelming the shields of several human ships and reducing them to twisted hulks. Just as it seemed the human attack was faltering, Elena's voice rang out across all channels. Now, spring the trap. From the seemingly empty space behind the Void Collective fleet, dozens of human ships suddenly materialized. They had been there all along, hidden by advanced stealth technology. At the same moment, the 2 groups that had appeared to retreat earlier reappeared, having used the cover of nearby planets to slingshot around and approach from different vectors. Caught in a perfect ambush, the Void Collective fleet found itself under attack from all sides. The human ships moved with a coordination and precision that seemed almost impossible, each vessel acting as part of a greater whole. Zixna watched in awe as the battle unfolded. The humans were using tactics she had never even imagined, ships working in pairs to create overlapping fields of fire, smaller craft making suicide runs to take out key enemy vessels, and electronic warfare suites that seemed to be predicting and countering Void Collective maneuvers before they even happened. Admiral, Elo said, his voice filled with wonder. I've never seen anything like this. It's as if they've been fighting wars like this for centuries. Zixna's antennae twitched in realization. Perhaps in a way they have. Remember their history, Elo. All those conflicts they spoke of, the simulations they ran, they weren't just preparing for war. They were mastering it. As the battle reached its crescendo, Elena's voice came through again. Admiral Zixna, we've opened a gap in their formation. Bring your fleet in now. Let's finish this. The Concordat ships surged forward, their crews emboldened by the humans' success. Working in concert with their new allies, they drove into the heart of the Void Collective fleet, their weapons finally finding purchase against enemies already battered by the human assault. In less than an hour, it was over. The Void Collective fleet was in ruins, its surviving ships fleeing into the depths of space. The Lyra 7 system was secured, and with it, the safety of the Concordat's core worlds. As the dust settled, Zixna requested permission to come aboard the UES Defiant. She materialized in the ship's transporter room, still struggling to process what she had just witnessed. Elena was there to greet her, looking tired but triumphant. Admiral, welcome aboard. I hope our performance met with your approval. Zixna's scales rippled with a mix of colors, admiration, gratitude, and just a touch of fear. Captain, I don't know what to say. You've saved not just this system, but possibly the entire Concordat. But I must ask, how? How did you do it? Elena's expression turned serious. Admiral, what you saw today was the result of centuries of human history. Every war we fought, Every conflict we've studied, every simulation we've run, it all led to this moment. She led Zixna to the ship's war room, where holographic displays showed the battle from multiple angles. Human officers were already analyzing the engagement, discussing ways to improve their performance for the next confrontation. You see, Admiral, Elena continued, humans have always been fascinated by war, even as we've strived for peace. We've developed entire academic disciplines around strategy and tactics. We've created games that simulate warfare in incredible detail. And when we turned our eyes to the stars, we didn't just wonder what was out there, we asked ourselves how we would fight if we had to. Zixna watched as the humans dissected their own performance, pointing out missed opportunities and potential weaknesses. It's extraordinary, she murmured. You treat warfare as an art form. Elena nodded grimly. In a way we do. It's not something we're necessarily proud of, but it's a part of who we are. And right now, it might be the thing that saves the galaxy. As they continued their tour of the ship, Zixna was struck by the duality of her human allies. In one room, engineers were excitedly discussing improvements to their weapon systems. In another, medical staff were treating wounded Concordat soldiers with genuine compassion. I must admit, Captain, Zixna said as they reached the ship's observation deck, when we first encountered your species, many in the Concordat feared you. We saw your potential for violence and worried about what it might mean for the galaxy. But now, Elena finished the thought for her. Now you're seeing that same potential turned outward, used to protect rather than destroy. Zixna's antennae drooped slightly. I feel I must apologize, Captain. We underestimated you, not just your capabilities, but your character. No apology necessary, Admiral, Elena replied with a small smile. We understand the concern. Humanity has always been a paradox, capable of great destruction, but also great creation. Fierce warriors, but also passionate peacekeepers. It's a balance we've struggled with throughout our history. As they gazed out at the starfield, dotted now with a combined fleet of humans and Concordat ships, Elena continued softly. This war, Admiral, it's going to change everything, not just for the Concordat, but for humanity too. We're no longer alone in the universe, and we're facing a threat unlike anything we've encountered before, but I promise you this, we'll face it together. Zixna felt a surge of emotion she couldn't quite name. It was more than gratitude, more than admiration. It was a sense that the galaxy had fundamentally shifted, that a new era was dawning. Together, she agreed, extending a scaled hand to the human captain. Elena took it without hesitation, the gesture sealing a bond between their species that went beyond mere alliance. As Zixna prepared to return to her ship, she paused at the transporter pad. Captain, I must know, what's our next move? Elena's eyes gleamed with a mixture of determination and what Zixna was starting to recognize as the uniquely human emotion of excitement. Well, Admiral, now that we've shown the Void Collective what we're capable of, I think it's time we take the fight to them. Are you ready to go on the offensive? Zixna felt a thrill run through her, a feeling she had never experienced in all her years of peaceful exploration. I believe, Captain, that with humanity at our side, we're ready for anything. As the Admiral dematerialized, Elena turned to her crew. All right, people. We've won the first battle, but the war is far from over. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can really do. The UES Defiance engines flared to life, leading the combined fleet deeper into space. The Void Collective had awakened a sleeping giant, and humanity was ready to prove that they were a force to be reckoned with, not just in war, but in shaping the very future of the galaxy. The turning point. In the months following the Battle of Lyra 7, the war against the Void Collective intensified. Human forces, working in concert with their Concordat allies, had managed to halt the enemy's advance, but at a heavy cost. Dozens of worlds lay in ruins, and countless lives had been lost on both sides. On the bridge of the UES Intrepid, the newest flagship of the human fleet, Captain Elena Rodriguez pored over tactical displays. The holographic map of the galaxy was a patchwork of colors: blue for Concordat space, red for areas controlled by the Void Collective, and an ever-shifting line of purple where the two forces clashed. "Captain," called out her XO, Commander Akira Tanaka, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Elena nodded, her face grim. "Put it through." The holographic form of General Marcus Chen materialized on the bridge. His expression was grave. "Captain Rodriguez, I'm afraid I have troubling news. Our analysts have detected a pattern in the Void Collective's attacks. They're not just conquering territory, they're searching for something." Elena's brow furrowed. "Searching for what?" "We're not sure," Chen replied, "but whatever it is, it's located deep in Concordat space. If they find it before we do—" "Understood, sir," Elena said, her mind already racing with possibilities. "What are our orders?" Chen's hologram flickered slightly. "We're calling it Operation Rosetta. You're to rendezvous with a Concordat research vessel in the Epsilon Eridani system. They've uncovered some ancient artifacts that might shed light on what the Void Collective is after. Find out what it is, and if possible, secure it before they do." As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her crew. "All right, people, you heard the general. Set a course for Epsilon Eridani, maximum speed." The journey to Epsilon Eridani was tense. The UES Intrepid pushed its engines to the limit, racing against time and an unseen enemy. When they finally arrived, they found the system in chaos. A small Void Collective strike force had beaten them to the punch. The Concordat research vessel was under heavy fire, its shields failing. "Battle stations," Elena barked. "All weapons, target the lead Void ship. Let's give our friends some breathing room." The Intrepid surged forward, its advanced weaponry lashing out at the enemy vessels. Taken by surprise, the Void Collective ships scattered, giving the Concordat vessel a chance to retreat behind the human ship's formidable defenses. As the battle raged, Elena opened a channel to the research vessel. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the UES Intrepid. What's your status?" A familiar voice responded, "Admiral Zixner." "Captain, your arrival is most fortuitous. We've sustained heavy damage, but our cargo is secure." "Glad to hear it, Admiral," Elena replied, a small smile crossing her face despite the situation. "Think you can make it to our shuttle bay?" "Affirmative, Captain. We're on our way." As the Concordat ship limped towards the Intrepid, the human vessel unleashed a barrage of fire that drove back the Void Collective attackers. Within minutes, the enemy ships had either been destroyed or forced to retreat. In the Intrepid's main conference room, Elena met with Zixner and the lead Concordat researcher, a spindly, multi-limbed being named Dr. Quix. Spread out on the table before them were a series of strange, glowing artifacts. "What exactly are we looking at here, Doctor?" Elena asked, eyeing the objects warily. Dr. Quix's voice was a series of clicks and whistles, translated by the ship's computer. "These artifacts are remnants of an ancient civilization we call the predecessors. They vanished millennia ago, but their technology was far beyond even our current capabilities." Zixner nodded, her scales shimmering with excitement. "We found traces of their work throughout the galaxy, but never anything this complete. These devices seem to be some sort of key." "A key to what?" Elena pressed. Dr. Quix's limbs waved in a gesture of uncertainty. "We're not sure, but based on the data we've decoded so far, we believe it's tied to a weapon of unimaginable power. One capable of reshaping the very fabric of space-time." Elena's blood ran cold. "And you think this is what the Void Collective is after?" "It would explain their pattern of attack," Zixner confirmed. "They're not just conquering. They're searching, methodically covering every sector where predecessor artifacts have been found." Elena leaned back, her mind racing. "So we're in a race. We need to figure out how to use these keys before the Void Collective does." Dr. Quix made a sound that the translator rendered as a nervous laugh. Easier said than done, Captain. We've been studying the predecessors for centuries, and we've barely scratched the surface of their technology. A thoughtful expression crossed Elena's face. Maybe that's the problem. You've been looking at it from a Concordat perspective, but humans, we have a different way of thinking. She tapped her comm badge. Bridge, get me a secure line to Earth. I need to speak with our top scientists and our best game designers. Zixna's antennae twitched in confusion. Game designers? Captain, I don't understand. Elena smiled. Admiral, humans have a long history of solving complex problems through games. Sometimes, to understand a puzzle, you need to look at it as if it were a game to be won. Over the next few weeks, as the Intrepid cruised through contested space, a unique collaboration unfolded. Concordat scientists worked alongside human experts in fields ranging from quantum physics to ancient linguistics. But the key breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a team of human game designers who specialized in complex puzzle games. It's not just a key, explained Yuki Tanaka, lead designer of the popular Cosmic Conundrum game series. It's a map, a code, and a lock all in one. The predecessors didn't just want to hide their weapon. They wanted to make sure that only a species with the right combination of intelligence, creativity, and ethical reasoning could access it. Elena looked at the holographic representation of the game the predecessors had created. It was beautiful in its complexity, a multidimensional puzzle that required not just solving, but understanding on a fundamental level. So how do we win? She asked. Yuki's eyes gleamed with excitement. That's the brilliant part. We don't just solve it. We have to prove we're worthy of the solution. Each stage of the puzzle requires making choices, demonstrating not just intelligence, but wisdom. As the days passed, the combined human Concordat team made rapid progress. The game designer's unconventional approach, combined with the scientist's deep knowledge, proved to be a powerful combination. But time was running out. Reports came in of Void collective forces massing for a major offensive. They were closing in on the location of the predecessor weapon. Finally, after weeks of intense work, a breakthrough came. The team had deciphered the final stage of the predecessor puzzle, but there was a catch. The last part of the key needs to be activated at the weapon's location, Dr. Quicks explained, his limbs quivering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. And based on the coordinates we've decoded, it's in the heart of Void collective territory. Elena's jaw set in determination. Then that's where we're going. Admiral Zixna, can your forces create a diversion? Zixna nodded, her scales flashing with a mix of colors. We'll give you every second we can, Captain, but you'll be deep behind enemy lines with no support. It's a risk we have to take, Elena replied. She turned to her crew. This is a volunteer mission. Anyone who wants to stay behind, now's your chance. Not a single crew member moved. The plan was audacious, bordering on insane. While the combined Concordat human fleet engaged the main Void collective forces, the Intrepid would use its advanced stealth systems to slip behind enemy lines. They would have one shot at reaching the predecessor weapon and activating it before the Void collective could stop them. As the Intrepid prepared to depart, Elena stood on the bridge, looking out at the assembled fleet. Concordat ships and human vessels flew side by side, a testament to how far they'd come since that first encounter. All hands, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the ship. This is the captain. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. We're going to dive into the heart of enemy territory, activate a weapon we barely understand, and hopefully save the galaxy in the process. She paused, letting her words sink in. I won't lie to you, our chances are slim, but everything we've learned about the predecessors tells us that this is a test to see if we're worthy of their legacy. So let's show them, and the Void collective, exactly what humanity is capable of. A cheer went up from the crew. Elena nodded to her helmsman. Take us in. The journey into Void collective space was a nerve-wracking game of cat and mouse. The Intrepid's stealth systems were pushed to their limits, weaving between enemy patrols and sensor nets. Finally, they arrived at their destination, a massive structure floating in the void, clearly of predecessor design. Its surface was a swirling mass of energy and matter, defying the laws of physics as they understood them. "My God," whispered Commander Tanaka, "it's beautiful." Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the awe-inspiring sight. "And terrible. All right, let's do this. Prepare the landing party." As Elena led a small team towards the predecessor structure in a shuttle, the Intrepid took up a defensive position. They knew it was only a matter of time before the Void Collective detected their presence. Inside the structure, Elena and her team raced against time, using the knowledge they gained from the artifacts to navigate the alien corridors. Finally, they reached what appeared to be a central chamber. "This is it," Elena said, her voice hushed. She pulled out the final key, a small glowing device that pulsed with otherworldly energy. "Here goes nothing." As she inserted the key into a slot in the chamber's center, the entire structure came to life. Energy coursed through the walls, and a holographic interface sprang to life before them. "Captain," called out one of her team members, "I'm detecting multiple Void Collective ships entering the system. They found us." Elena's hands flew over the alien controls, guided by the countless hours of preparation and the intuition honed by those peculiar human game designers. "Come on," she muttered, "show us we're worthy." Suddenly, the chamber filled with a blinding light. When it faded, Elena found herself face to face with a holographic figure, a representation of one of the predecessors. "You have proven yourselves capable," the being said, its voice resonating in Elena's mind rather than her ears. "But tell us, why do you seek this power?" Elena took a deep breath. This was the final test. "We seek it not for ourselves, but to protect others, to defend life and freedom against those who would destroy it. We seek it not to conquer, but to preserve." The predecessor studied her for what felt like an eternity. Then slowly it nodded. "You speak truth. The power is yours to wield, but remember, with great power comes great responsibility." The hologram faded, and Elena felt a surge of energy course through her. Instinctively, she knew how to control the weapon. Outside, the Void Collective fleet had engaged the Intrepid. The human ship was putting up a valiant fight, but it was hopelessly outnumbered. Just as all seemed lost, the predecessor structure pulsed with energy. A wave of iridescent light swept out, engulfing the Void Collective ships. In an instant, they simply vanished. On the Intrepid's bridge, the crew watched in awe as the enemy fleet disappeared. "Captain," the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief, "I'm reading. No Void Collective ships. Not just here, but anywhere in sensor range. They're gone." As Elena and her team returned to the ship, the full magnitude of what had happened began to sink in. The predecessor weapon hadn't destroyed the Void Collective, it had transported them. To where, they didn't know, but the threat to the galaxy had been neutralized. In the days that followed, reports came in from across Concordat space. The Void Collective had vanished entirely, their occupied territories suddenly empty. As Elena stood on the observation deck of the Intrepid, watching the swirling energies of the predecessor structure, she felt a mix of triumph and trepidation. They had won the war, but at what cost? And what would they do with the immense power they now possessed? One thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same again, and humanity, for better or worse, was now at the center of it all. Counterattack. The activation of the predecessor weapon had changed the face of the war overnight. With the bulk of the Void Collective's forces mysteriously displaced, the combined human Concordat alliance found itself in a position of unexpected advantage. However, the sudden shift in power dynamics brought with it a host of new challenges and ethical dilemmas. On board the UES Intrepid, now stationed near the awe-inspiring predecessor structure, Captain Elena Rodriguez sat in deep discussion with Admiral Zixner, and a holographic projection of General Marcus Chen. The weapon's effect was far more extensive than we anticipated, Elena explained, her voice tinged with a mix of awe and concern. It didn't just remove the Void Collective ships in our immediate vicinity. According to our long-range scans, approximately 80% of their known fleet has vanished. Zixna's scales shimmered with a kaleidoscope of colors, reflecting her tumultuous emotions. This is unprecedented. We've effectively won the war without firing a shot. But where do they go? And more importantly, what do we do now? General Chen's hologram flickered slightly as he leaned forward. That's precisely why I've called this meeting. We're at a crossroads, and our next moves will shape the future of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Zixna who broke it, her voice soft but firm. We cannot ignore those in need, even if they were once our enemies. The Concordat has always stood for peace and compassion. We must extend that to the collective civilians. General Chen nodded slowly. I agree, but we must also be cautious. This is an opportunity to not just end the war, but to understand our enemy. Captain Rodriguez, I'm tasking you with a dual mission. First, coordinate with Concordat forces to round up the remaining collective military assets. Second, initiate a humanitarian effort to assist and, if possible, open dialogues with the civilian populations. Elena straightened in her chair, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Understood, sir. We'll need to act fast. The power vacuum left by the collective's leadership could lead to chaos if we don't step in. Over the next few weeks, a massive operation unfolded across the galaxy. Human and Concordat ships, once on the defensive, now pushed into former collective territory. But this was no ordinary military campaign. For every warship, there were 2 or 3 vessels dedicated to humanitarian aid and diplomatic outreach. Elena found herself at the forefront of this effort, coordinating a complex dance of military precision and compassionate intervention. The Intrepid became a hub of activity, its holds filled with supplies and its conference rooms hosting a constant stream of strategy meetings. One such meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from a scouting party. Captain, the young ensign reported, his voice tight with excitement. We've made contact with a high-ranking member of the Void Collective. They're requesting to speak with our leadership. Elena exchanged glances with Zixna, who had become a permanent fixture on the Intrepid. Put them through, she ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any they had encountered before. The collective representative was a swirling mass of dark energy, vaguely humanoid in shape but constantly shifting. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I am Nexus 7, 3rd tier overseer of the Void Collective, the being intoned. I seek to understand what has transpired. Our connection to the greater whole has been severed. We are incomplete. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth Space Command. We activated an ancient weapon that seems to have displaced the majority of your forces. We're here to offer assistance to your civilian population and to discuss terms for a peaceful resolution to our conflict. Nexus 7 pulsed, its form rippling with what might have been confusion or distress. Peace? Resolution? These concepts are difficult. The collective exists to expand, to bring all into our unity. Without the whole, we are lost. Zixna moved to stand beside Elena. Perhaps this is an opportunity for a new kind of unity, she suggested gently. One based on mutual understanding and cooperation, rather than assimilation. The conversation that followed was unlike any diplomatic exchange in galactic history. As they delved deeper into the nature of the Void Collective, Elena and Zixna began to understand the true tragedy of their enemy. The collective wasn't just a conquering force, it was a hive mind, a single vast consciousness spread across countless bodies. The weapon hadn't just removed their ships, it had fractured their very being. Over the following months, a new strategy emerged. Instead of simply subduing the remaining collective forces, the Human Concordat Alliance embarked on a massive rehabilitation effort. They worked to help the fragmented collective members rediscover their individuality while still maintaining the connections that defined their species. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks and conflicts. Some collective remnants, unable to cope with their new state of existence, lashed out violently. Others embraced their newfound individuality with an almost manic fervor. But slowly, progress was made. Elena found herself spending more and more time with Nexus 7, who had become a sort of ambassador for the fragmented collective. One day, as they stood in the Intrepid's arboretum, surrounded by plants from a dozen worlds, Nexus 7 turned to her. "We have been observing your species, Captain," the energy being said, its form swirling thoughtfully. "You humans are paradoxical. You cherish your individuality, yet you form deep bonds. You compete, yet you cooperate. You are capable of great violence, yet also great compassion. How do you reconcile these contradictions?" Elena smiled, reaching out to touch a delicate alien flower. "We don't always reconcile them, Nexus 7. Sometimes we struggle with our contradictions. But I think it's that struggle that defines us, that pushes us to grow and change." Nexus 7 pulsed, absorbing her words. Perhaps this is what we were missing. The collective sought perfection through unity, but in doing so, we lost the spark of growth that comes from diversity. As their conversation continued, Elena felt a sense of hope growing within her. It was moments like these, she realized, that made all the hardship and sacrifice worthwhile. But even as progress was made on the diplomatic front, challenges remained. Reports came in of rogue collective warships attacking fringe colonies. Strange anomalies were detected in sectors where the predecessor weapon had been most active, suggesting that the fabric of space-time itself might have been affected. And looming over everything was the question of the predecessor structure and the awesome power it represented. Debates raged across human and concordat space about what should be done with it. Some argued it should be destroyed, fearing its power was too great for any civilization to wield responsibly. Others saw it as a key to unlocking the secrets of the universe. 6 months after the activation of the weapon, Elena found herself once again in a high-level meeting, this time with representatives from Earth, the Concordat, and even a delegation of former collective members led by Nexus 7. General Chen's hologram addressed the assembled group. "We stand at a crossroads. The immediate threat of the Void Collective has been neutralized, but we face new challenges. The galaxy is in a state of flux, and our actions now will shape its future for generations to come." Zixna spoke up, her scales shimmering with determination. "We must use this opportunity to forge a new era of cooperation. The Concordat has always dreamed of a galactic community united in peace and mutual understanding. Perhaps now, with humans by our side and even our former enemies joining us, we can make that dream a reality." Nexus 7's form pulsed with what Elena had come to recognize as agreement. I concur. The collective sought unity through force. We now see the error of our ways. True unity can only come through choice and understanding. Elena listened to the discussion, her mind racing with the possibilities and pitfalls that lay ahead. Finally, she stood, drawing the attention of all present. "What we've accomplished here is unprecedented," she began, her voice firm. "We've ended a war not through destruction, but through understanding. We've taken enemies and turned them into allies, but our work is far from over." She gestured to the viewport, where the predecessor structure loomed in the distance. "That weapon out there, it's not just a tool of war, it's a responsibility. The predecessors left it for those they deemed worthy. Now it's up to us to prove that we are." Elena's gaze swept the room, meeting the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of each being present. "I propose we form a new organization. Not human, not concordat, not collective, but a true galactic alliance. One dedicated to exploration, to understanding, to preserving life in all its diverse forms. And most importantly, one dedicated to using the power we've been given responsibly for the benefit of all. The room erupted in discussion, but Elena could see the spark of excitement in the eyes of those present. It wouldn't be easy. There would be disagreements, setbacks, and challenges it couldn't even imagine yet. But for the first time since the war began, the future looked bright. As the meeting adjourned, Elena found herself standing next to Zixna and Nexus 7, looking out at the stars. "You know," she said softly, "when I joined the Space Command, I never imagined anything like this. I thought I'd be exploring new worlds, maybe making first contact with a few alien species. Instead, we've reshaped the entire galaxy." Zixna's antennae twitched in what Elena now recognized as amusement. "The universe has a way of exceeding our expectations, Captain, but I can think of no better crew to face those surprises with than yours." Nexus 7 pulsed in agreement. I am grateful for this opportunity. To learn, to grow, to be more than what we were. You humans have taught us much. Elena smiled, feeling a swell of pride and hope. We're all learning together, and something tells me the lessons are just beginning.